Hey MBA hopefuls, we're on air with MBA Waves, your weekly vidcast talking all things business and education, streaming live every Tuesday on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, bringing you tons of tips to help you get into a top rank MBA program and getting you up close and personal with many of the schools that we host on the show where you can get ask all your questions answered. And if you like this week's episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Today, on episode 111, we're talking about the value of the business school campus visit. We're going to dive into the campus visit, making the best outfit, and alternatives to campus visits. As always, I'm your host, Krithika Srinivasan, joined by my co hosts, Bara Sapir and Eric Lucrezia, who's going to be here in a minute. And hi, Eric. And we also, sorry, Eric, we have a problem. We have a special guest today, our friend and colleague Thomas Kalandranis, admissions consultant and personal development coach at Dear Gerontodi
2D.
Prep Center. How do I pronounce that, Thomas?
Jaron 2D.
Gerontodi. So there
Jaron
we
2D.
go.
There you go. You have to practice your
Yeah.
Greek. That's the thing.
All right, Thomas. So why don't you tell us more about you and a little bit about Gerontodi as well?
Yeah. Well, Miss Dia Jaron 2D is my spouse and significant other, and she's the one that got me in the business. Prior to that, I had my career in corporate sales, loved it, traveled a whole lot, got sick of it, and was looking for something different to do. She has been a long time instructor of the GMA, GRE, and all those prep tests. So it made sense that she needed someone to help her out with the applications consulting. I had the practice from working with American companies and all these interviewing skills, writing succinctly, business writing, and all that. So these two meshed somehow. Ergo, admissions consulting. Admittedly, there was a learning curve. I think I'm so much better now than when I started, but I've been doing it for a while now. I started in 2003, and now it's almost 20 years with varying intensity along the ways. And I think one of the funnest things I've had happen all these years is meeting colleagues like you guys and all the other guys at AGAC, um, from whom I learn all the time.
Wow, 20 years and still learning? That's so awesome. And welcome, Thomas.
Yeah, you're very
So,
welcome. Thank you.
jumping right into the topic today, most outcomes are going to stress the fact that visiting a campus in person will not give the candidate an edge in being admitted. Visiting the campus, we all know, is expensive, time consuming, and we all know that it's better to do it earlier while you're considering the program. But so here we're going to talk about it. So, why should you think someone should take time for a campus visit? So, Thomas, starting with you first.
Yeah. Um, well, two key issues here. First of all, let's take the issue of cost first, because it sounds so darn expensive, especially for my clients, all international, Greek nationals or European nationals. So it is quite a trek to fly over to the US, where most of the desired schools are. A little bit easier for the European schools. Cost-wise, it's but a drop in the ocean, you guys. So you're going to spend nearly $200,000 to get your MBA education. Another four or five on top really will not break the bank. Number two, if you read the websites of all the big schools, they describe their programs. They say all these wonderful things you're going to do and the things you will be transformed into. Well, they sound a lot alike, really a lot alike. And trust me, they are not. So how do you find what this difference is? Visit. Now, being in person, that is the holy grail. There's no substitute for being there, talking to AdCom people, talking to professors, students, the whole bit, and actually getting a feel for the vibe of the place, because they feel different, like a whole lot different. And then we have to thank COVID for all these new tools we have now for virtual visits that actually made it both affordable, fast, and not a bad choice to be honest. Yeah, you can get some pretty good info over the internet.
Yeah, I definitely. Sorry, I think we're having. All right.
Something's wrong with Eric's thing.
So
Yeah.
what
So.
about I'll jump in here. So what
Yeah.
about international students who may not be able to take the time off
Right.
for the visit?
The time is actually the bigger obstacle here, because if you plan on visiting 3 or 4 or even 5 schools in the U.S., you're talking for a minimum of 10 days, and that's really being optimistic. So um, some do it. A surprising number of them do it because they see the value, because they also see what we see, that simply reading the websites just doesn't cut it. It doesn't give you this unique element that we look for. So Berkeley, Stanford, 20 miles apart, right? They couldn't be different, more different. And yet you would not know that if you simply read what their website contains. Being on campus, you really understand what the 4 principles are and how they actually apply them. Yeah, they mean that stuff that they write. Yeah, and when the Stanford outcome people tell you that we're looking for the people that will change the world, they actually mean it, and you realize this when you talk to the students that are in the program. So there are all these technical things that our candidates look for, and they agonize over, write the perfect essay, get the perfect score, so on and so forth. And then they're wondering, okay, so what is really going to be like? What is the bigger obstacle I'm going to find? Okay, is my English good enough? Well, yeah, it's good enough for the TOEFL and the GMAT and the GRE you took. Can you actually converse with people from 6 different nationalities all talking at the same time? Now, that is a true field test of your English speaking ability and comprehension. Now, imagine doing this over beers. Well, we know students don't do beers, but still.
What are you talking about? Yes, they
Yeah,
do.
no, I know, just rumors that do
Come
not
on.
believe them. But it's there is a vibe on every campus. There's a special vibe, and you get it when you walk during the times when students are changing buildings, classrooms, see all this mayhem that happens on campus, see them, what happens during lunch times, where do they meet, they congregate, the facilities. Okay, now we all had the chance just about not even 2 months ago, to visit some awesome campuses in New York and in New Haven, and despite the years of experience, I don't know, my jaw dropped. I was looking around like I came, a country hick coming to town.
Well,
And
the campuses were absolutely
yeah, I
stunning.
mean, we saw Cornell Tech and go, oh my God, can I be a student again? Right? Maybe without the finals. Then we went to Columbia. Oh wow, oh my God. And then you go to Harry Potter land, and you see Yale, and then right next to Harry Potter buildings, you see this spiffy shiny thing, where students have access 24 hours a day, and it's their building, it's their house. For any candidates watching us, you are going to spend so many hours and days and endless months on campus. Make sure it's nice. You don't want to be somewhere where you go, I cannot wait to go home. It should be the opposite. I cannot wait to leave my apartment, to be on campus, to be at the library, to be at the quad. Right? And you will get that when you visit there and you listen to other students talk around you. So it's the question that we should ask. What do MBAers do all day? Well, they
And I
do a lot of
think
interesting
that's what
stuff.
people are paying for, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Yeah, I
mean, you
mean,
can you can learn marketing from a book.
it,
So
it it all becomes alive, right? It becomes your own movie. It's almost like the way that you're talking about it, it's almost like the EQ of a person, it's like the EQ of a school. Like it's the emotional quality and how you feel when you're on that campus, because it's not just what the campus is presenting, it's who do you become. Do you become inspired? Do you become wistful? Do you become like, oh, this isn't right for me, actually, like I don't actually quite fit in here. And it's really being able to listen to yourself in the process of going to these the different campuses and seeing who's there, what's the vibe, exactly like what you said. And that makes such a big difference because you're going to be
so
spending so long there.
yeah,
So
no.
many.
And so there's a question: exactly do you do during a campus visit, or what should you do? Right?
Hmm.
The 1, 2, 3 steps, what to do. I
Hmm.
think AdCom should be your starting place. because they're the guys who will give you the guided tour, right? And that's nice. It's good to know where the buildings are and the bathrooms are and all this good stuff. And then leave them alone. I mean, they're the friendliest people ever, and you love them. I can guarantee you that. But leave them and go find students. See if you can sit in a classroom, not an empty classroom, one with a class, going on. Yeah. So sit in a class and listen to the professor teach, and the students interact with the professor and between themselves, because that's going to be your life for 2 years, right? See if you can take it. The famous case study method. Yeah. Can you handle it? I mean, they say yes, and we have these type A personalities as MBA candidates. Yeah. Can you actually stand it when you make your convincing argument and 5 hands go up with opposing opinions with some pretty good arguments themselves, and you have to defend your position right there in front of everyone, and you're speaking English with an accent on top? Can you do that? Yeah. So it's a test of fire right there. Yeah. And a good one. I recall, no, granted, when I was an undergrad, I was a lot, no, I wouldn't say shy. I've never been shy. But I was a bit, out of my element, and no one could get my last name right. So I would feel so embarrassed and would say, Mr. Kalandranis, could you explain? No, it's Kalandranis. Okay, so even these little things, see if you can handle them in class, right? Yeah, I mean, they're going to be challenging and rigorous enough, but can you hold your own? Yeah, are you quick-witted enough to handle the questions that'll come your way? Because they will question you, they will challenge you, as they should. Yeah. So classroom, that's a big one. And then, Bara, Krithika, I mean, you've experienced the rigor of an MBA. You know what it's like.
Well, I don't have an MBA, but I will say that I also think it's super interesting, even looking at the places where like postings are, like what's happening on campus, like what kinds of groups are there, who's like, are there performances, are there things in the area? Like Krithika and I both went to school in Ann Arbor, and the Dalai Lama comes to speak in Ann Arbor, and then so do every single band that's coming through, and plus you've got the sports. So if you have any kind of interest outside, it's also super interesting. There's other admissions consultants that we've had on here that were really interested in other sports, and as a business school student, they were able to play on their sports teams.
Yep.
So whoever you are as a person, how do you get fully expand that and advance it while you're in business school? Of course, business school is your focus, but it's an opportunity to see how open are they, and who are the students? How, are they just clustered and looking in? Are they looking out? Are there internships?
That is the point, Bara. Yeah. That is exactly the point. It's like high school on steroids, right? The cool kids table and the nerd. Okay, you don't have nerds because they're all nerds in the MBA, although they try to look cool. But what do
nerds
they
are
do?
Cool.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, ask Jeff Bezos and he'll tell you. So what do they do once outside the classroom when they're not in a study group? Some of the most interesting conversations that you'll have as MBA students will be just sitting in the quad, or in the case of Columbia, we just went there, that little staircase thing that they have right at the lobby. I think it is the most popular place on campus, or just at Kellogg, when you get in and you have that staircase thing again on the left. And this is where you will have conversations with your cluster or your cohort or with others that you don't know, right? So see how this exchange of ideas and views and opinions, the stuff that you're really paying the money for, I mean, this is it. This is the money, yeah? How does it take place, yeah? And then here comes, Krithika, I'm sorry, you're going to say something.
No, I was just going to say that, what I love most about campus visits is how it shows a more concrete view of the future vision of who they could be. Yeah, it's like, for example, they could think like, I could come here and I could do all these things. I could have my startup. I could, be part of this consulting crowd and get into this. I could do product management. And I'm so thrilled to see the studio. So that kind of, I feel that they're able to envision and even better present their career goals when they're able to relate it to the campus. So that's what I thought
Yeah,
was so easy,
yeah.
like so useful about the campus visit.
You see details like when we're at Cornell Tech, the studio, they explained it to us, right, in a lecture form, and then we saw it. And it's like two different worlds. I mean, it sounded exciting when they were describing it, and then you see it, and you can actually see yourself in it, right? You preparing for your future career, hands-on. We saw a darn car. They were working on a car anyway. So I mean, they have all this exciting stuff that goes on, and you really, if you think your excitement level is there when you go to for a campus visit, you're probably going to leave, and it's through the roof. We listened
Yeah.
to Dean Maglaras at Columbia speak to us. I don't know any candidate who would listen to him and not choose to apply at Columbia after that. I mean, the guy's a magnet, right? He's the ultimate seducer. He will seduce you to his business school, and you will want to leave because he's that charismatic. And like him, there are so many others in every school. So find your thing. How supportive are they? Krithika, how supportive were your fellow students when you were at the MBA program?
I didn't do an MBA, but I
Oh,
just did a
sorry.
minor in marketing at the Ross School of Business. I had to say they were the best.
I'm thinking of, I'm sorry. Yeah, pretty. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I should say that they were some of the best, like in my
Yeah.
marketing class and
Yeah.
the other business school programs that I took at
Yeah.
Ann Arbor. And Ross is kind of, and I feel that the business schools somehow have this very futuristic and modern looking,
Yeah.
campuses
Yeah.
in a very traditional university. And you could just explore both of them. So you could see how the business school interacts with the rest of the other colleges and the other
Yeah.
schools that are out there.
Yeah.
And that interdisciplinary focus is so critical for some of the programs like we saw at Columbia, and then we saw it even at Cornell Tech, right? How it uses a lot of those and so on.
Well, I'll give you a small example. We had two students of ours. One was admitted at Booth, the other one at Kellogg, right? So practically same town. And of course, Boothies are supposed to be, well, they claim to be very supportive. Second years take care of the first years, they guide them through, they mentor them. And it was interesting to hear the comments of a girl from Kellogg saying, "Oh my God, these guys never talk to one another. They're like lone wolves." And this is true because at Kellogg, you can't even go to the bathroom by yourself. You go with your group. I mean, they do everything together. And this is the culture of the school. Group. They work together for everything. They do wonderful things, but you need to be with a group all the time. So if your personality cannot handle that, you need to know that before you go there, right? And living and experiencing it, this is where the visit really pays off. Sorry, I got a little bit excited here.
Sorry, Bara,
When do
you're on
you,
mute. Yeah. Mhm.
when do you think the best time to visit campus would be? Because
Yeah.
I'm thinking like Ann Arbor, I would not say that someone should visit in the dead of winter, for example. But
Yeah.
maybe they should to understand what they're going to be living through. So when do you think is a good time
Yeah.
to visit?
So going to Boston during a snow emergency, huh? Yeah, you'll turn around and leave. I think first of all, a class school needs to be in session. You need to be able to sit in a class and experience that. And well, I would say somewhere in late October, early November, or sometime right in March. And I'm thinking along the lines of admission rounds when the admission committees have the least load, and also try to time your visit so you're not on finals week or something, because students need to give you their time of day. Yeah. So mid to late fall, mid to early spring, yeah, those are pretty good dates. Summertime, you're gonna enjoy the weather, nice campus visit. You will not see that many students.
Right.
Hmm.
Yep,
So, which means that they have to like kind of plan the year before, right? They may
they
not be able
do.
to do it when they're going in for round one in that application year.
They do. In my opinion, I think this campus visit thing. This is pretty much part of your preparation for your application. And since we spend the summertime for many of our students preparing essays and application and all that, spring is where you decide which universities you will apply to. Yeah, early summer at the latest. So yeah, a visit in early spring will do that. Likewise, if you're going to do second round, you should be there by mid-autumn. Um, yeah, to make up your mind. Uh, which of course now brings the next question up: what if you cannot visit in person? Yeah. Um, I don't know. I can keep going. By the way, you guys, I know you have to stop me here.
Well, we actually, Thomas, we do have a question from Moath who has asked, I'm going to show the question here. Do you recommend that the visit be arranged, or is it better for it to be random and sudden?
Arranged, very much so.
Orange.
Okay, you don't want to catch anyone by surprise. You want them to have the time to give it to you, right? Adcoms, professors, students, right? They need to make the time for you. Student ambassadors are great helping you organize this thing. So yeah, definitely. Forget the impromptu, random surprise visits. Those are good to see if your roommate cleans up the apartment in time. Not for a campus visit. Yeah.
So, and I think like some of the best developments after COVID has been how campuses have been able to like streamline their tours
Yeah.
and visits and have both online and offline components. So now you could like if you can't visit, in person, you could still have like some of those access to the classes or the online
Yeah.
classes and other
Yeah.
things, right?
Yeah, and I mean, universities were pretty awesome in how fast they adapted their operations to remote use, and they also brought up a whole set of tools. And I mean, we can access more students now um, via chat or a live conference or even a simple email. Yeah, I mean, sometimes my candidates ask me, during the interview, what should I ask them? Because we're supposed to ask them 2 or 3 questions, right? I go, well, one would be, what could be your biggest challenge in the first 2 months at university? I mean, you come from a different country, yeah? And you may not know much about the American reality if you come to an American school or how they do things in the UK. There are things that happen outside the classroom that will affect your life as a student. So ask another international student, what was the biggest thing they had to face initially? Was it finding a supermarket? Was it learning how to eat their local food or whatever it is? Or actually breaking through to someone who's a different nationality and striking up a conversation? Um, and I usually frame it in the first 60 days because that's when you have to make most of the new adjustments. After that, you pretty much get in a groove and things can happen. Yeah. Um, yeah. Um, so students, I'm a huge proponent of talking to current students. They will give you the lowdown, even the unpleasant lowdown that you need to know. Yeah.
You could even meet students from the same country that you're from, right? You can talk to folks
Yeah.
in the admissions and say, are there any students here that also come from my country or my culture? I would love to talk to them. Or if there's cultural centers or religious centers that are on campus or near campus, you can go and speak to
Anything
them
at
as
all.
well.
Anything that I mean, you're leaving your routine behind and going to a new world, and you need to adjust really fast. Because we all know how many things happen concurrently in those MBA programs, inside the classroom and out. And you need to be able to roll with it very fast. Yeah? I mean, I'll give you a small, tiny example. One of the things we love here in Greece is our iced coffee. I mean, we have warm weather, so we have our coffee iced. Yeah? Okay, you're not going to find iced coffee in Boston. You have some iced latte maybe, which is kind of a watered down version of it. But for many, that's a big issue, and it sounds ridiculous that your coffee is an issue, but it is. Yeah.
There's iced coffee in Boston. There's iced coffee everywhere. What are you talking about?
I don't know.
Thomas?
They finally copied us.
I think like having the tag of HBS is going to like make up for that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah.
And now that you brought it up, we have all visited many campuses as part of the AIGAC conferences on our own. What has been one memorable experience of a campus visit that you want to share?
Mine. Um, okay, and I'm trying to view this experience through the eyes of my students, my candidates here, because unfortunately this summit doesn't happen enough in Greek universities. You visit campuses and you meet with the AdCom people, university people, professors, etc., and they're so glad to see you. I mean, they're genuinely happy there to help you out. And I had students ask me, "Well, I can go and ask them that?" Go, yes, they will be happy to do that. You'll get the support, and this is something that gets them really excited about. Yeah. Um, at the same time, I can tell you that should they not get this treatment, that would be a huge turnoff. This is one of the things that could change your mind about going to X school versus Y school. Yeah, feeling welcome and needed and seeing people smiling because you just showed up is a huge incentive to go there. Yeah, yeah. The good facilities do not hurt either. Yeah, uh, yeah, and then maybe a Harvard name on your diploma. Sure. Yeah.
Bara, what's your favorite apart from Ross?
Well, I have to say, going to Cornell Tech, the building that was on Roosevelt Island, it was just such an amazingly beautiful, well laid out thought of campus.
Hmm.
And seeing the bridge like right there as you walk up to campus, I just thought it would just be so inspiring as a student to be able to see that each day, that just, and be in the facilities there. It was just state of the art. It was absolutely gorgeous. So, I mean, there's lots of memories, but
It
the
is.
place
Yeah.
where,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the visual, the architecture is always, it's always so striking to me.
For me, it was Kellogg. Back in what was this, 18 or so, 17 when we were there. Um,
Hmm.
and I mean, we got lucky because it was a perfect sunshiny day. I mean, it looked like the weather you go to the beach, right? You don't go to for a campus visit. And they had just built that brand new building of theirs, the business school. And now, if I remember looking outside the window of the conference room, and there were some tennis courts down low, a couple of kids throwing the football out on the grass lawn. I go, this is a resort. This is not a university. I mean, the lake stretching in front of us, it was like being in a resort. And I go, people study here, right? I mean, how envious could we all be of them? And it's something I would wish anyone to experience. All these facilities that the business schools prepare are simply incredible. Yeah.
Right. And I love it how you could see the facilities actually fostering the connection which
Yeah.
they want.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the facilities are a reflection of what the students want and what the school wants for the students in terms of like how even as second years and first years meet, how undergraduate students and even like the MBA folks are going to like talk to each other and learn from each other. So it's always fascinating. I think for me, being on in Berkeley, it was one of the very first visits for me. Absolutely thrilling, because this was a school that matched when it said sustainability. You wouldn't like. I think this was probably one of the first schools like we didn't have plastic or anything everywhere, and they were like literally like matching what they were preaching
Mm-hmm.
to their practice as well. So it was very incredible. But yeah, I also cannot forget. I think one of the most incredible moments was being on the deck of Berkeley and then looking over the entire city when it was dusk and twilight. So it was just like amazing. So, and I think that as you rightly pointed out, Thomas, in the beginning, you would want to get that vibe, and the vibe is different in every place, and
Yes.
that's something that you cannot capture even in virtual campus tours. So which is why like either you seek it secondhand or you're going to like actually take the effort and go visit it.
I
It
will say
is.
I was at the Berkeley market 2 days ago, it's called Berkeley Bowl. And literally the grocery store there has changed over where they have no plastic bags. So this is one of the major grocery stores in Berkeley. Like you get bulk spices, but you can't even put them in plastic now. You have to put them in these paper bags. And the vegetables, they have compostable bags. So it's amazing. Like I love living near a place that's so progressive, and it's amazing that the university embraces that as well. That like the whole town is on board. I mean, we can get into it, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but I
Yeah.
will say like that is really lovely that the campus is really talking about sustainability and walking that walking their talk.
It's the details, really. I mean, one of the things I spotted during the Yale visit just a couple months ago. Okay, we're lucky to have nice weather, but walking through campus, they had all these little nooks and corners where they would set up 2 or 3 wooden lawn chairs for students to sit there and talk. So this is a detail that kind of indicates the care the university shows to its students. And this was not just for the business school, this was all over campus, right? But a different vibe. I don't know if you ever had the chance to visit HEC in Paris. And it looks anything but like a university. I mean, there's a building on one side, and there is a gigantic park in front of it. That's a campus. The park is part of the campus. Yeah, it has a lake in it, as a chateau, right? And if you can actually see yourself walking through there, knowing that this is also a top university globally, you might say, okay, maybe I'll forgo the US and try France. In Seattle, it's pretty much the same way. I mean, they're right next to Fontainebleau, in the forest. Yeah. So for outdoorsy types, yeah, Tuck can do it really well up in Ithaca, or we can go to France. Sure. Different
Brilliant.
place, different style. Yeah.
What about looking at it from the other viewpoint of do you know of students that have changed their minds because they
Um,
visited a campus?
well, usually it's when they're between 2 or 3 schools, right? And they're all pretty much on the same level. And a visit will make the difference. And I think it usually has to do with the people that they talked with.
Okay.
Because, I mean, we know that pretty much all universities are pretty darn impressive in terms of facilities,
Mhm.
the things they give you. So you expect to have the super library, access to the building 24 hours a day, spiffy meeting rooms, and the whole bit. Yeah. If you're lucky enough to go to Columbia, you will have the spiffy business school. Of course, different story because it's New York. Yeah. Uh, but the person that will meet you and greet you and the students you'll meet, they'll make all the entire difference. So um, talk to more than one person, right? You may catch a person on a bad day. Don't let that be your image for the school. Okay? Speak to 5, 6, 10 people, right? That will give you a clue how much supportive they are or how much they say they are supportive. Yeah, how open they are, how they share things. Go to one of the student events. Every university has like Tuesday night coffee or Wednesday night beer and sausage, something. This socials is where you really understand how the students interact between them. These are the people you're spending the next 2 years with. So you want to see that. Yeah, absolutely. And but yeah, it's people centric. They will turn you on or turn you off, more so than the buildings do. Yeah.
Krithika, do you have any examples of that?
I don't want to name schools though.
Right, I know.
Having been to like, I would say it's really personal, right? I will say there were like two schools, school A and school B. If I tell you like where it is, you all will know where. In the same city that we visited, the city never sleeps. But there's a big difference between how people view it in terms of being midtown versus being elsewhere, somewhere else, where the school is, as you all know. But I think, like, ultimately, as Thomas said, it was like how alumni treated them, how like the AdCom treated them when they went there. That always like makes them choose one over the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like Thomas, like how you said that talk to many people, because I
Yeah.
think it's like the six men and the elephant story, where each person is touching one part of it and is going to tell you, and you are actually able to piece it out and then decide
Yeah.
for yourself like what you want from
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys hear this question. I get some students of mine that say they have gone through the campus visit, and they get back and say, okay, now how do I use this in my application essay? And I go, well, if you simply mention that, hey, I went on campus and it looked pretty cool, you don't really add much value. Okay? It would definitely be worth if you can identify 1, 2, or 3 things that made a difference for you. Yeah. I mean, I like paying attention to very small details because to me the details really tell the story, not the big picture. So again, I
Devil
took a
hangs out there.
I'll take Columbia as an example. It's not the only school by any means, but a small detail that to me, if I were a student, I would definitely want to apply there. Approaching the new business school, you go through past the engineering school or the science building, whatever they call it. Spiffy, briny, brand new, shiny, the whole bit. In the basement, ground floor, semi-basement thing, they have a climbing wall. You know, the one you do exercise and you climb and all that. Well, it's open 24 hours a day to the community, not the student community, to the New York community. When a university tells you we are an integral part of our society, well, do they preach to the choir or are they really doing it? That was a detail to me that showed this university spent their hundreds of millions to build this building, and they want to give access to the local community. And the local community is nothing glamorous, right? It's West Harlem, working people, working class, nothing special. And they can go in and climb the wall at Columbia. Not a bad deal, yeah? Not a bad deal. Now, that's a university I can get behind and say, yeah, you guys get my
And then
application.
think about children, young children who would have access to
Yeah,
that wall,
yeah, yeah.
how they would be growing up with so many visions of like
You dream of going to Columbia
greatness,
someday, right? Yeah,
greatness and
yeah,
success. Wow.
yeah, yeah. But these are indications of what happens. There was, I think it was an episode or something with a booth, and there was a second year talking. And he was talking about his experience as a first year in the MBA program, and they have the mentorship, the buddy system there. They pair you up with the second year if you're a first year. And he said, I had heard about the supportive system at Booth, blah, blah, blah. What really made the difference is seeing that second year mentor that he had spending more time on him than for his own affairs. The second year was mentoring, the first year spending more time than he would do looking after his own deals. Now, that is a university to say, yeah, I want to be in that ambience. I want to be in that environment. Yeah? Someone helping me out. Folks, the MBA is tough. We know that. It's tough getting in. It's tough making it through. You need help. You'll need a whole lot of help. Okay? So go somewhere where you're going to get it. Now, if you're a lone wolf, okay, maybe you can find your school. We won't name names, but yeah, there are schools like that.
We have another question here. I'm gonna post it. This is also from Moath. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly.
Yeah.
Will a visit give insight to what the school is about? So some people look for school X and they'll say it's for consulting, and school Y is for finance, and Z is for management. So how can a visit help you see such a thing?
We sat in the class, well, abbreviated version at Yale with Zoe Chance, right? Now, speaking for myself, I would take her class any day of the week, maybe twice over. Because this charismatic teacher could actually tell you something about marketing that you can actually use. So if you are thinking about consulting, thinking about finance, go sit in a classroom and see what this professor does. I mean, is he putting you to sleep? Yeah. The numbers for all MBA programs are great. 30% go to consulting, 25% go to finance, another 30% goes to tech. If you put the numbers side by side, pretty much the same. Yeah, so you will get a job. The question is, will you learn as much in every single one of them? So if you're a marketing guy, yeah, we'll say, well, go to Kellogg. That's a marketing school. That's because they are. They're very good at it. But they're not only that. Yeah, there are a whole bunch more. Yeah, it's just like saying, Wharton, all they do is finance. Well, no. They do a whole lot of other stuff. So sit in the classroom, go take a class in accounting, which is a boring subject to begin with, and see if this professor makes it fun. Because you can actually do that, then hey, imagine what the other classes will be like. Yeah? I don't believe that schools specialize. I believe they have a tendency, like Chicago is known for economics. They have this super tradition behind them. And yeah, they're very quant-oriented. They say that up front. Yeah? Just like going to Imperial in London. They tell you before you get in, we're heavy in quant. So if you want fluff, you will not find it there, right? Even the fluff courses will have quant in them. Yeah? But in terms of career and preparing for one, This is my opinion. I think if you try your hardest and squeeze the program dry, suck everything you can out of it, really, your future is up to you, not to the school's reputation or label, whatever you say you call it. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I love what you said about it. It's about like, designing the experience that you want, and you will be in a position to do it only when you know like what you're playing with.
Yep.
And looking at it, I always say that it's like going to multiple hotels. Everybody can give you a bed and a room and shelter for the night, but then some are going to be like much more better for you than the others. The only thing is that MBA is not like a hotel for a night. The consequences are much more, like I think like much more long range than than a night at the hotel. I think.
And it costs 120,000, right, to to complete the program. Yeah.
All all right.
Um,
So here we go with one last question, which is what are some alternatives to campus visits? You touched upon it a little bit, like we
yeah.
already talked about virtual campus tours, but what else can people do
Well, we
for
have
those who cannot visit?
the fairs, right? The traveling fairs, which are sometimes a bunch of universities going to one place where you can meet a number of reps, or you can have universities doing their own circuit thing, right? We just had here in Athens, Columbia did something. It was a small event, but we had admissions officers from Columbia that were here to talk about the program. You know, um, for me, it was basically repeat what we had listened a couple of weeks before that. But still, it's nice to meet them. Yeah. So universities will do that much more so in the big cities, less in the smaller cities, and of course, yeah, the big countries. The big markets, France, London, and of course the US will get the bulk of it. Asia, if you think of the big cities in Asia, they will come to you. And there's plenty of MBA fairs, aren't there? It looks like they're multiplying every year. Yeah. So I know they're like rabbits, but they're a good starting point if you want to get the flavor of the university
Mhm.
you want to go to. For example, Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh. That's one awesome school, in my opinion. Yeah. In my country here, this is pretty much unknown. Yeah. So how would I get a student interested in potentially going to Carnegie Mellon when I know they could be a good fit? Well, they have to talk to a few people. Yeah. And one way to do that is get the first flavor. So if you're an engineer, perhaps you'll be a very good fit at Carnegie Mellon because they're very much in tech. It's their natural. It's in the DNA, right? They do other things also, but can you be with with the rest of your classmates and feel comfortable with? Yeah, you could if you're that kind of candidate. So fairs, starting point. Get on the horn, get on the internet, go to the chat rooms, go to the webinars, and talk one-on-one. I don't know about you guys, I have students that are very reluctant to talk to admissions in case they give a bad impression. I go, these guys are trying to get you in, right? They're not the gatekeepers to push you out. So they will tell you if you're weak somewhere. If they tell you you're weak somewhere, it's for you to work on it and make it stronger. Yeah? They're not there to mark it down, okay, John, yeah, not admit he's weak in math. That means go learn math because you will not be able to handle the course later. Yeah? And after you're strong, talk to them again. Or if they tell you apply, that means apply. You can fight for it. They'll never tell you you're in, you're out, yeah? But they will tell you if you have a fighting chance. So talk to admissions folks right away, and after you get the positive vibe from admissions, or you get the thumbs up, go ahead and apply, get in touch with students. Ambassadors to begin with, student ambassadors, alums, if you can find them, they're everywhere. And current students to me has to be your final stop before you say yes or no, because they will give you the final clue. Yeah. Do you enjoy going to class every day? Well, maybe not every day, but overall, yes. What do you do when you're not in class? That's what you want to know. Yeah? Do you just go to a local pub, or do you actually do something that will make you a better person? Yeah? How did they change from when they got in to where they are today? I mean, we send people for their MBA programs to transform themselves. Well, how? What happens? What do they see different? Students can tell you that because they're living it. Alums can tell you that also. Yeah, but alums are usually very pro university. They will, you know, I don't know. It's
Rosy
this,
glasses.
there's this bond with the university that you build over time, and you want to protect the university and promote it. Students will tell you if something is wrong, and or something they don't like, and that's okay. You don't have to like everything, but you need to know what's good and what's not so good.
I have a question. So we're talking a lot about the students going and what they can get from the university, but what do they wear? Right? Like how do they show up on campus? Like,
Suit
do
and
they
tie?
wear business casual? Do they wear a
Yeah,
suit and tie?
yeah,
Are they wearing jeans? I mean, how do you suggest
yeah.
that they show up?
Well, sitting in a classroom, that would be a great way to see what they wear, obviously, right? I'm pretty sure that there are some, at least in the beginning or when they have a big, I don't know, have a guest lecturer, they will dress up a little bit nicer. But I cannot believe students are there every day with a blazer and a tie. I mean, if they do, they're nuts because they're going to be wearing that monkey suit day in, day out afterwards. So that's a good opportunity to show up in jeans and a shirt and be comfortable. Um, or in the case of Boston, wearing two coats and gloves. Right. So I like Boston, by the way. I really like Boston. I like the Boston schools a whole lot. Um, but it's the wear, but all these little things that make your day happen, Bara, and that you piece those things together, you can actually see yourself in it, or maybe you can see yourself not being there, and that's just as important because it'll be horrible after you spend the money to get there to realize, oh my God, this is the wrong place to be, even
Or
if
I'm
that
too
means the weather.
formal, or I'm not formal enough,
Yeah,
or wow, these shoes are actually not good on cobblestone. Maybe I
yeah,
should have worn different shoes, right?
yeah. And if you're not an outdoor person at all, what are you doing at Cornell in Ithaca? I mean, these guys live outside, yeah, even in the winter. So fit in, very important. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. Thomas, like we could go on, but I think we're
Oh,
coming
I
to
can
the
talk for hours. Yeah.
this is so nice and to hear a lot of it. So true as I was like, we're seeing that getting a first-hand experience of the campus vibe, sitting in a class session and simply observing how the students interact in the daily routines, like would be like a great difference for someone to select or reject the program. And that's all the time that we have for this episode. I want to thank our featured guest, Thomas Kalandranis. Is that right?
That is correct.
And all our guests in the audience. It was such a pleasure to hear your questions today. MBA hopefuls, if you liked today's episode, please give us a little thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to MBA Waves to stay on top of all trends and news in the world of MBA's business and education. Finally, don't forget to check us out next week, same time and place. And for full access of upcoming and past episodes, head to mbawaves.com. Bye.